And welcome back to more Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon. So last time, Zangetsu sacrificed himself to defeat Gremory and save his allies in the true ending for normal mode. So this time, we are resuming Nightmare mode with Stage 9, Fallen Moon's Requiem. So in order to reach Zangetsu, we have to go through 3 areas with specific characters. In these sections, you cannot swap characters, and if you die, you lose a life because you don't have anyone else to switch over to. That being said, it's not that difficult. I find the next segment to be the toughest one, and the big part of why I don't think this is that difficult is because these are basically reused enemies. This is, for example, like one of the Ice Golem enemies from like Stage 2 in terms of basic attack pattern, so it's not that bad, it just looks frightening. I really like the background with the clouds scrolling. By the way, there is a one up there. Here we have a redesigned version of those like scissor enemies from Stage 6, I want to say. They're still pretty easy to take out, especially because of that extra health upgrade, so that means Miriam is actually at max HP. Normally you can't get to max HP with Miriam in normal mode because you can't get that extra heart in Stage 1. So after navigating those 2 screens, we arrive at this green gate, and past here is a mini-boss. So one thing I'm not sure about is if the mini-bosses are based on regular enemies. I kinda think this one might be based on the like gargoyle enemies from Stage 8. So now that we defeated that mini-boss, we swap back to Alfred. And also, speaking of Stage 8, I'm not sure if I mentioned it in the previous part, I can't remember if I did or not, but you skip Stage 8 in Nightmare mode because Gremory has already been defeated. Therefore, after you defeat the boss of Stage 7, you immediately go to Stage 9. So here, we have like the little decoy power-up is what I tend to refer to it as, which doesn't help us. If we had gotten ice, we could actually freeze the fire or the flying enemies and actually grab that lightning power-up and the lantern. So unfortunately, we have to do this the hard way. Actually, fire is pretty good for this. It's not too bad, because since we have the platform, why did I jump there? I mean, I guess that serves as a demonstration that yes, you do lose lives if you die with only one character, because obviously the other characters can't come and help, since these are very much based around specific abilities. I feel like the other characters could get through Alfred's section, but not necessarily the other way around. Obviously with all the fire and flying enemies, Alfred is well suited for this because of having ranged attacks, but I feel like G-Bull and Miriam would be able to get through here no problem. But just to demonstrate, that was really bad timing, and yeah, that didn't work, so we're gonna have to wait, actually. That works. Still too high up. Alright, there we go. We have the lightning. It's actually not great, because of all the flying enemies, because the lightning might not home into them, and that happens. Alright, for real this time. Overall, this isn't a particularly difficult level at first. It gets tougher later on, past the initial 3 gates. But as is, it's a pretty straightforward level. I feel like I pressed jump there. You know, the section isn't even that difficult. I don't know why I'm struggling so much here. I just pushed jump probably like a couple frames late, and thus it didn't register as I just walked off the edge. That's a problem I do have with this game, is I kind of wish certain jumps didn't require you to stand like right at the edge of a ledge. And thus, a lot of times with Zangetsu also have this problem of just plummeting off of a ledge because I'm trying to make a jump, but you have to jump so late that the input might not register. Oh well, this should be good. By the way, with fire you can also break the lanterns in the air, which is good for restocking on magic. And up here is our next gate, finally. The red gate, and past here. Sure, we'll show this off, because I'm not sure if I've used it in the playthrough. Another mini-boss. This is basically the, one, armor enemy on the ship in stage 5. Again, just designed to look more demonic. So yeah, this little decoy power I tend to not like. It's not particularly useful, I find. And finally, we swap over to Jeeble, who has a very interesting section. It's a flight section. This is also a really good place to get a lot of weapon points, because Jeeble only uses them for flying, and therefore we won't use up any for the next character. Down here we have a redesign of the enemies that would try to pounce at us. Without Miriam, we actually have a better chance of hitting them in the air than trying to attack when they land. Because the impact does do splash damage, so it is better to try to hit them out of the air. So there should be one more, and that was good, all 3 attacks hit actually. There should be one more mini-boss, and off the top of my head, I'm not sure what this one is actually based on, but up here is the blue gate, and one final fight. But yeah, this one, I'm not entirely sure what it's supposed to be. Since the others, I'm pretty sure, are reused enemies, I feel like this one would be as well, but I'm not sure what this is supposed to be. Either way, not too difficult. And with that, we have reached the final stretch of Stage 9. We have an ominous moon in the background as we climb down a staircase. This is very Castlevania, but in reverse. Normally start at the bottom right and then climb up a staircase to Dracula. So this is kind of a neat little homage, I assume. So, because we died, we lost our sub-weapon. I'm actually going to use the regular dagger sub-weapon for this fight, because, spoiler, I actually kind of want to lose this fight for a reason. But through this door is our final boss. Alright, so Zangetsu has like this demon sword arm now. So we actually only play as Miriam in this fight. Jeeble and Alfred act as support characters to dodge specific attacks. In that case, we use the platform that Jeeble makes in order to get by. Here, we have to use the flame shield in order to get close to Zangetsu and be able to attack him, like so. Overall, I like this fight, but I have a few issues with it. Obviously I have played this fight before, and I still expect I might die unintentionally at least once, because it's not easy. You really have to get a pattern down, and little things like not standing on the right side of the screen, also this Crescent Moon attack. The telegraphing of it, to me, looks very similar to the attack with Alfred, so I tend to accidentally mess that up occasionally. I often get hit by the sword as well. Also, this attack is really difficult because if you jump too early, you might not be able to jump over the spikes, so you have to be very careful. By the way, the sub-weapon is not good, so yeah, this is a case of me being positioned wrong, because I was expecting the attack that Alfred is used for. Yeah, this is very Castlevania, but in terms of style, the boss gives me Mega Man vibes, actually. I mean, this is NT Creates, I guess that kind of makes sense, but it almost feels like something that would be at home in something like the X series. Once again, because we only play as one character, if we die, we don't have any second chances because we actually need all 3 characters for this fight. So, you also lose a life automatically, so we have to be a little careful. You know, I say you have to be careful, but you actually don't, because they give you an infinite life spawn. Okay, that's the Crescent Moon attack. If you're standing right next to him, you can do damage there. I was standing too far away from him, sadly. Sometimes he charges like 1 time, sometimes he charges like 3 times. So yeah, there's a lot of unpredictability to this fight, and very fast attacks. That was a case of jumping at the wrong time. So yeah, I feel like that's kind of why I kind of view this fight almost sort of like it would fit in like a Mega Man X game that's like very fast paced. Like you can picture fighting something like this with like Zero, or at least I can. But again, it kind of makes sense if NT worked on like the Mega Man Zero series, that this would feel very fast compared to probably any other Castlevania fight I've ever seen. Because I feel like most Castlevania fights are very slow-paced, and this is a very fast-paced fight. That's kind of not something you see every day in the series. Alright, so, that was another case of just being positioned wrong when jumping. This might be a good run? Oh, not if I get hit by the sword. There we go. So Alfred needs to charge up an attack. If we let any of the blue flames hit him before all of the 6 glyphs appear, we lose. I'm kind of 2 minds about this. On one hand, I like the fact that they gave a special death animation, for that. On the other hand, I don't know how to feel about insta-kills, but, I intentionally messed it up because I wanted to show that off. But, as is, it's not actually a difficult, attack to deal with. Alright, hopefully for real this time, unless I botched something in the process. Quite frankly, this is not my first attempt at recording this, and therefore I have had a little bit of practice over the last couple days at this fight, so I kinda know what I'm doing. That being said, it doesn't make this fight that much easier, as I've still died quite a few times off-screen to this. On my first playthrough, I had a heck of a time getting through here. After the ally helps you, Zangetsu will always charge, because he wants to knock the other character down. So yeah, it's very predictable, but it's, again, kind of a lot to take in at first, I find. And definitely, I would say, requires a few attempts to really get good at the fight, and kind of learn all the timings, which again, I'm not sure how to feel about it, because, you know, it's a cool fight now that I know what I'm doing, but I remember it being very frustrating the first time around. And even then, it's still cool, though. Everything is telegraphed pretty well, but it's just a really fast, sign. Yeah, that was a case of just jumping at the wrong spot there, so I fell into the spikes. You kind of have to wait until he's, like, about to go down before you do your final jump, just to be safe. This should be it. Alright, so I picked up the triple dagger because this makes this phase way easier. I also didn't use much weapon energy on purpose because I wanted to save some for this. And with that, that should be it. Thus, the new era of darkness came to an end. However, their failure to save their ally's life weighed heavily upon their hearts. In the end, they had only enough power to save his soul. May this land and his soul know true peace. And that's the end of Nightmare Mode. I think it's worth playing Nightmare Mode, even though you basically go through the game again, having all allies unlocked, and having tougher bosses, most of which I didn't show in all fairness, but I will be showing later on. It helps to keep the experience feeling relatively fresh, even though you're kind of going through the same levels again. Also, it's only like an hour to 2 hour long game, so going through it twice isn't that bad. There's still a few more things we have to show though, which we'll be doing a little bit later. But yes, this is considered the true ending of the game. I'm curious to see what happens with the sequel at this time. At the time of recording this, the sequel comes out like the day after I'm recording this. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I hope it's good. Again, I'm wondering what ending it's gonna follow, because the true ending doesn't leave a lot of room for a sequel, I find. At least the kind of sequel they're doing. I have a feeling it's gonna be based on one of the normal endings where Zangetsu lives. But yeah, we'll see. It might just be kind of like a side game as well. A side game to a side game. But yeah, probably one of my most anticipated games at the moment, because not a whole lot has been announced for 2020. This comment might age really poorly depending on what gets announced by the end of July, because there are things rumored. But yeah, it's still a really good time. I would still recommend this game, and again, doing the second playthrough. Thank you for playing, once more. Zangetsu's soul remained behind where it was driven to the afterlife. The end? I appreciate that as a double reference to both the opening of Mega Man 2, and also one of the buildings in the background is apparently a major location in the Gunvolt series. So, yep, I appreciate the double reference there. But next time, we're going to try for the bad ending. So thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time for more Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon.